What's up, everybody here in the swamp? Good to see you back for another installment of the Lori Vallow Daybell court trials. And as we know, she's been representing herself, and it's not been going very well for her. With all that said, obviously in Arizona right now, Lori Vallow Daybell is accused of conspiring to murder her husband, Charles Vallow. Now, apparently, this is Kay Woodcock. Now, this is significant because this is Charles Vallow's sister. She's going to give us some insight about Lori and Charles' relationship, how they acted with each other, etc. And she's going to give a tear-jerking recounting of when she learned that her brother had been killed.
How old are you?
How old am I today?
Today.
64.
And
No, tomorrow,
are you married?
Yes.
Where do you currently live?
Lake Charles, Louisiana.
I want to talk to you about your siblings. You told us that you are Charles's sister. How many siblings were there in your family?
6.
And where did
Sheesh,
Charles
big
fall
family.
into that?
He was number 3.
Who are the other siblings?
My oldest sister, Terry, then my next sister, Susan, then Charles, then Jerry, then me, then Bobby.
And where
family.
did you guys grow up?
Dad was
We're in Lake Charles.
Were you close with your brother?
Yes, I was.
Did you know his wife, Lori Vallow?
Yes, I do.
Can you point her out in the courtroom and tell us what she's wearing?
She's the defendant over there in the black jacket.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
That's funny because that's the least descriptive thing she could have possibly said. I love it. She does not look like she wants to be there.
I want to talk to you sort of about Lori and Charles. Were you at their wedding?
No, they went to Las Vegas.
Do you recall what year they got married?
2006.
Did they have a reception that?
I don't know if that's what you'd call it, but there was a family gathering in March of 2006 at a ranch in near Austin, Texas, that we all went to.
She seems very not happy about this, as you could tell from her facial expressions. I can tell this is going to be a pretty interesting one. You can tell she's very emotionally conflicted.
Kind of to celebrate that?
As you would be.
Yes.
Had your brother Charles been married before?
Yes.
Did he have any children from his prior marriage?
Yes.
How many?
2.
And who were they?
Cole Vallow and Zach Vallow.
And did you know if Lori had any children from a prior marriage?
Yes. Zach, Colby Ryan and Tylee Ryan.
When Lori and Charles got married, did Charles's 2 sons live with them?
Live with Charles and Lori?
Yeah.
No.
Did they stay with their mother?
Yes, they did. They visited, but they never lived there.
Where were they? Was that in Arizona or still in Texas?
In Austin.
I
I hate the coughing so much.
want to
Turn on the mute, bro.
ask you sort of some of the ages of the children involved. In July of 2019, was Tylee still a minor?
Yes.
So she was still living with them.
Yes.
In July of 29, do you know if Colby was still a minor?
Yes. Oh, wait, no, Colby was not.
He was an adult at
He
that
was
point.
an adult.
And in July of 2019, were Charles's 2 sons, Cole and Zach, still minors or adults?
They were adults.
I wonder why this is gonna matter. Now clearly this isn't Lori talking yet, so we're getting some actual decent questions. When we jump over to Lori's questions, obviously they're gonna get a lot more emotionally driven and whatnot. But definitely interesting to see some questions that might actually tie into something relevant to the case.
Did Charles and Lori have any children together?
They adopted my grandson, JJ.
And can you tell us how that worked out?
How that worked out,
Or
meaning
how did they get involved in adopting your grandchild?
Charles approached me about it one day. He called, and I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on then, and that was my son's child, and there was a lot going on. So I just told him then, look, I can't make a decision like that. We don't know how this is going to go. Just, just keep me in mind, keep it in mind. And so I kept it in mind.
And do you recall when did they adopt JJ?
It was final in July of 2014.
That's interesting because the way Lori was wording it in the first or I think it was the second video, we had 5 children, which technically sure by marriage, but like she was just making it seem like her and her husband had like all these children together, like there's this whole grandiose life together, right? And then this woman was coming in and just trifling and destroying all of that when clearly that's not the case. Not to say obviously an adopted child is still a child, but point being is Lori was acting way more defensive than she should have been for sure, especially being super like accusatory toward the woman and all that. Like, I don't know.
How old was he then?
He was 2.
Did JJ have any special needs?
Yes, he was autistic, and he was born 10 weeks premature.
So he took a little extra care.
He did, absolutely.
Do you recall, so if he was 2 and they adopted him, how old was he in July of 2019?
He was 7. We spent his 7th birthday together in Lake Charles.
Very interesting. I still wonder where we're going with this. Obviously, a lot of this stuff's important because, Lori didn't just murder her husband. I feel like I've left that out a little bit on accident. She also murdered her children, too. So it's deep and convoluted here.
So in July of 2019, to your knowledge, Lori and Charles still had 2 children under the age of 18 with them, Tylee and JJ?
Yes.
So if in July of 2019, Lori Vallow was saying she had 5 kids she was taking care of, you were unaware of the other 3?
There were not 5 there, no.
So Lori's getting caught. Loris of the trees. How dare you, Loris? I couldn't believe you'd ever lie to us. You brought up that perjury comment the last episode. I don't know.
There were 2.
Can you tell us about the relationship between Charles and JJ?
Charles was the best dad. I mean, he was always doting on him. The arrangement I figured out eventually was that if Charles was working out of town, Lori had him all by herself. And so when Charles got back to town, JJ was his to take care of 100%.
That's kind of wild, treating your adoptive son as some sort of dog that, you take turns on with the weekend or whatever. But I mean, from what I understand from my information, just as she said here, he was a very loving, doting, very much, in support of his son. That was his son in his eyes, and that's very much what I'm understanding the relationship was. Seems like Lori wasn't too keen on it. Maybe not as the kid got older, maybe became a little harder to deal with. Autism, it's a very broad spectrum, so like it could be really mild, or it could be something very debilitating. So I think potentially she just didn't realize what she was signing up for and was trying to find a way out. But, instead of murdering everybody, maybe you could have just, divorced, I guess. I don't know.
Did Charles bring JJ to visit your side of the family in Louisiana?
Oh, yes.
Did you regularly see him?
Yes. Once JJ learned how to fly, and excuse me, I need water. Once JJ learned how to fly, and that he was, because he was autistic, something like that is a big deal for him, and he loved it. So he was a little flyer. He loved to go in the airplane.
What did your brother Charles do for a living?
He sold annuities. He was a financial planner.
And how long did you know him to do that?
If I had to guess, 20 years.
Sheesh. I'm definitely going to have to look up exactly what this is, because I've just been hearing that he sells life insurance. So now I got to look up what annuities are and getting into all that. Like, I've heard the word before, but I don't know anything about annuities. I'm going to be real with you, swamp folk. So, of course, good old Swampy D doesn't like to talk out of his ass, so I had to do a little Googles, had to figure out what annuities were and kind of what all that was about. So, it's not as simple as saying, hey, I sell life insurance, but I guess it's kind of that way. So as we're seeing here, the basic overview Google's given us here, which, says AI overview. So come for me, boys. I use the AI. It says an annuity is a contract with an insurance company where you pay them money in exchange for regular payments, either for a set period or for the rest of your life. It's essentially a way to convert a lump sum of series of payments into a predictable stream of income, often used for retirement planning. So from what I'm understanding is, you will, put in some money, whether it be the Social Security, 401k, whatever, that type of stuff. And you will get payments from it over time. Obviously, the more money you put in, the more you get back. It kind of just like divvies up that retirement fund that you might have, and I guess pays it out to you. I guess there's downsides, obviously, what I'm reading is that they're not really flexible plans, and they kind of have like high interest or whatever. So this is a very rough, guide. Pretty interesting stuff, but the goal right here is to provide steady income, often during retirement, for a specified period of time. Say you get hurt and you're going to be out of work for 2-3 years or something like that. I feel like that's when this would come into play outside of a retirement type thing.
Work for others or have his own business? What do you recall?
He had his own business.
Had he previously any times ever worked for others?
Yes.
But in July of 2019, he had his own business.
Yes.
Did he have a business partner?
He did, yes.
Did his job require him to travel a lot?
He did. He would be gone 3 or 4 days a week on average. Sometimes he didn't have to travel, but he was just. But yeah, he would be gone 3 or 4 days a week when he would be working.
Ask you a little bit about Charles. Was he sort of a meticulous person when it came to paperwork?
Oh yes. I mean, for when you're doing that type of work, you have to be meticulous and methodical, and you can't make any errors. You can't miss a dot or crossing a T, because
I love me a good old Southern woman. You can't. Brings me back to my grandma.
it will get kicked back to you, and then it just causes a lot of delay and a lot of trouble. So he said there was never anybody I've ever trusted to do this for me. And I was like, well, I'll do it for you, because
We'll stop here.
yeah.
So
Yeah, that was getting kind of long-winded. I'm sure we're going to get into some better stuff here, but she's definitely long-winded on the answers here.
when Charles was working as financial planner, do you know if he had Lori help him with any part of his job?
I don't really know exactly what she did, but yes, but I don't know what she did.
Prior to Charles being a financial advisor, did he have a very different career in sports?
Oh, he was, I don't remember because I was quite young then, but he did, I believe he was drafted in the early 70s into the Houston Astros minor league.
So, homie was a baseball player at some point. Jeez, all right. Lori really got a stud. She didn't know what she had.
So when you were growing up, did you see your brother playing baseball?
I was raised at a baseball field. If it wasn't Charles, Jerry played for years, my other brother, but Charles stuck with it, and that's how he got to college with a degree, with a scholarship.
So you got stuck many a night and a weekend having to be at the ball field with your brother.
Yeah.
Baseball to CPA.
What position did your brother play?
He was a pitcher. He was very, very good. He was a left-handed pitcher, and they're very hard to hit again.
Did he bat right or left-handed?
He was left-handed.
Did he do everything left-handed?
Yes.
Left-handed? After your brother, well, let me ask you, do you know how long he played in the semi-pro?
I don't. He had moved to Houston, and but he blew out his knee, and that's ended that right there.
Dream shattered right there. So before we move forward, I think it's important to note here that a lot of these questions are boring, mundane, kind of seem redundant, but we're setting up a narrative here that Charles kept very good track of his finances, he kept good track of family, schedule, his friends, etc. Charles wasn't a disorganized human being. Charles was a very open, articulate, and transparent person, so he wasn't hiding a bunch of secrets. There's no crazy plot Lori keeps trying to throw out there. So I think a lot of these questions are very important for that reason.
Did your brother stay in shape after that, even though he blew out his knee?
Oh yes, he was always doing something.
Put up a picture of Charles on the screen here, but he's not a small guy. He's a pretty big dude. Now, he's not the most yoked or, tall guy, but he's a well-built individual.
Always. Bike riding, hiking, just anything. Gym, he was very active.
So every time you saw him, he was taking care of himself.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you a little bit about religion. Did your family grow up in the LDS church or faith?
No, we did not.
Did you know
plot
Charles
thickens.
to ever convert to the LDS faith?
He did at some point during his marriage to Lori.
Loris of the trees.
When Lori and Charles were married, did they always live in one state, or did they move?
No, they lived here in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area, Chandler, Gilbert, and then they moved to Hawaii in 2014, and then they moved back late 2016 or early 2017.
Back to,
Oh, back here to Phoenix area.
do you recall where they were, what state they were in when they met?
When Charles and Lori met,
Yeah.
they were in Texas.
Texas, okay.
Interesting flight plan. It's like you went from Arizona to Hawaii, Texas at some point, Arizona again. It's like, sheesh.
In 2018 and 19, you told us that Charles and JJ would come visit you and the family regularly.
Yes.
In March of 2018, did you have a member of your family pass away?
Yes, my mother did in March of 18.
R.I.P. to the mom.
Did Charles come out for that?
Yes, he did. He was there for her services. Lori was not, and
See, that's already a red flag. That was going to be the first thing I asked after this. Was Lori there? Was JJ there, etc.? Was it just Charles? And, obviously, like, come on.
we felt like something was going on. Well, actually, my husband felt it before I did, and then when she didn't show for my mother's funeral, I just thought that was just appalling. It appalled me that she wouldn't even come to something like that with her husband.
Like, genuinely would have to be a really good reason to not show up to your mother-in-law's funeral, let alone, not really seem remorseful or send any condolences, etc. Like, Lori is definitely a special type of person, and, those types of people usually live under the prison.
What was your relationship like with Lori?
Because of the work I did, the company we owned, I was on the phone an extreme amount of time, all the time. So I really don't like to call people. I'm not a phone person. I'll text you all day
Felt that to the core.
long, but I really don't like to talk. And so Lori and I never really had a big phone relationship. It was a text here and there, but mostly Charles would keep me up to date as to different things that were going on, or what they were up to, and or Charles would call. Yeah, Charles would call me mostly.
It sounds like you weren't close with her.
When Lori and I were together, it was like we hadn't missed a minute. We just took up where we left off, and she's very outgoing. She's very friendly and very easy to talk to, and so we got along rather well, and I loved her.
Loris gave up this beautiful family for what? For what, Loris? Some trees?
So continuing in 2018, do you recall seeing Charles and JJ coming out to visit you guys in October of 2018?
Yes,
What was that for?
just a weekend visit.
What about in November of 2018? Did you see Charles and JJ then?
We did. My husband and myself and my granddaughter. We went to Las Vegas, and Charles and JJ met us there for the Thanksgiving holiday weekend.
Yeah, man, they be traveling, man. They were having a great grand old time, and Lori, nowhere to be found.
I thought that was odd. He wasn't with his family. Lori was sick, or Tylee was sick, is what he told us. But he just wouldn't share what all was going on at that point. Then when he finally did, he unloaded it all.
He was holding that shit deep. Trauma dumped.
So in 2018, did you have any idea in 2018, did you have some concerns about their relationship?
Yes, it was. For him to come as often as they were coming was odd, and he was just unsettled, and we knew something was going on.
Yeah, that's what I was starting to think there, because, she's mentioning, it's maybe a month after they just last saw him, like they're already doing another trip together, and, Lori doesn't seem to be there for any of these trips, so, I guess you could definitely see there's trouble in paradise from a mile away at that point.
But he would never say, so he did, he talked to us when he was ready.
When we get into 2019, did you start to see your brother more? First, without going into what Charles said, did you ever become aware finally that his marriage with Lori was in trouble?
Yes, I did.
In 2019, again, without going into what Charles said, did you ever believe that Charles was concerned for his safety?
Charles was absolutely concerned for his safety. Lori had sent me a text, I think it was on a Thursday, that she and Charles were fighting because of some stuff she came up with, and that she and JJ and Tylee were at a hotel. Well, I guess Tylee was, I'm not sure. And because she didn't want to have any fighting, so they went to a hotel. And I came out. I knew Charles the next day. That's when she sent it to me. And then I just really I didn't call Charles. I knew he'd call me, and he sure enough did. And he was a mess. And so I flew out the next day out here to help him with JJ and just to come and talk to him and see what was going on. He was alone, and Lori's family turned their backs on him and JJ. Okay.
Let's just kind of break it all down here.
All right.
Now, you got a lot that you remember. So you said that you got a text from Lori indicating that she and JJ and Tylee were at a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said that Charles then called you maybe the next day.
Yeah.
And you came out here to Arizona.
Yes.
When you came out here to Arizona, did you become aware at that point that there was a big problem now with their relationship?
There was a huge problem now with their relationship.
Man, oh man, Charles was basically just, crying out for help is what I'm hearing here. And, there's only so much you can do for a grown man, obviously, but shoot, I feel like if something may have been done a little bit earlier to look into Lori and her potential, mental faculties, maybe some of this could have been avoided, but, I guess at this point with hindsight, you're always going to be like, this could have been avoided type stuff, but very sad, very sad.
And during this time when you had come out here, do you remember approximately when that was?
Like the 1st of February of 2019, or the 2nd, it was right in there.
When you came out here, did you then speak with Charles about his concerns for his safety? Just yes or no?
About his what?
His concerns for his safety.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's just yes. Is this the time where, well, let me ask it this time. When you came out here, did you see Lori?
Very interesting.
When you came out here,
Gets
did anyone
deeper.
know where Lori was?
No, nobody was talking about where she was. Nobody would tell Charles where she was.
That's
So
sus.
your brother was trying to find where she was?
Yes, he was.
Probably because he cared about where JJ was.
Where was JJ at this time?
He was with Charles, and that's
Oh, never mind. I stand corrected.
what one of the reasons I came out was to help him with JJ, because he was quite a handful, and Charles was a mess. He was broken. He was a broken-hearted man.
So you come out here, Charles has JJ. Where's Tylee? Do you know?
She's, as far as we knew, she was staying at Lori's brother's. That's what we knew then.
Did you have any interaction with her?
No.
How long did Charles have JJ where he's looking for Lori and can't find her?
Well, that portion of the time was 58 days, and I knew how many days it was because every day Charles would say something. He would tell me.
58 days? Holy crap.
He was counting them.
He would count them.
Were you out here the whole time? What'd you do?
I could work remotely at the time, so I did stay out here a lot, often, but I would fly back. I was back and forth between Louisiana and here from February until the end of March, because at that point we moved Charles to Houston.
So the end of March, you said you were moving Charles to Houston. Was that with JJ?
So what we're hearing here is there was clearly separation happening, because Lori's claiming in the last one where she was interviewing Charles' girlfriend, even though they had one date, she's claiming that they were never getting a divorce. I brought up the divorce papers, showed you that yes, there was divorce filed in 2019, and as we're seeing here, they had a whole life going on in Houston. JJ and homeboy were having their own thing going, so this is setting up a clear timeline showing that there was a separation happening.
Why are you helping him move to Houston?
Because Charles told me that Lori did not want JJ anymore, or Tylee, or him. I said, okay, well, look, what if you move to Houston and I'll be 2.5 hours away, and when you go out of town, I'll come and stay with JJ. And so he was talking about hiring a nanny, and I said, no, I will be the nanny and I'll come and take care of him when you have to work. And it's easy enough, and you won't have to pay a penny.
When Charles has JJ, you're helping take care of JJ in this time period in February and March.
Yes.
What about Charles's business? Did you help with that at all?
Yes, I had to get my arms around the whole thing. All the payments that needed to be made, the accounts, the emails, all that stuff you have to change over and change the password and all that, so Lori couldn't access it any longer.
Wow, that's crazy. So she was doing everything for her brother. She really was like a knight in shining armor for him. So, I mean, I'm devastated for her because I know she's going to break into tears a couple of times throughout this, even though we are pretty far into it. So it's got to happen any time now. But I mean, shoot, man, like the support system that this family had for Charles, JJ, etc. It's just mind blowing to think that Lori would want to run away from that, kill these people even.
You said you had your own job. What were you doing at that time in addition to helping your brother?
My husband and I owned a coastal crew change. It was a transportation company for the offshore oil and gas and LNG industry.
So you're trying to work that job and help Charles with his business.
Yes, I had a really great assistant who helped me an awful lot.
Just seems like everybody's got like the greatest support system around here, man. I could hardly find somebody to feed my dogs when I leave for a weekend, let alone somebody do my job for me.
Remember when you were packing up to move Charles to Houston?
Yes.
You there?
I was there.
Did Lori show back up?
She did. I was in the pantry in the kitchen, packing up the pantry. I don't know what, just something caught my attention, and I walked out and she was standing there. She had her back to me. Charles was sitting at the table on his phone. He obviously didn't realize that she was there, and then finally when he hung up, he looked up and there she was, and he started crying and she started yelling.
So this is like the first time he sees his wife in 50, 60 plus days, right? Can't get a hold of her, can't figure out what the problem is. She's basically just ruining this whole life they built together. He sees her and is overcome with emotion, grief, etc., breaks down, and she just starts yelling. Narcissistic people, man, can't deal with them.
Do you recall what she was yelling about?
That, why did you take JJ? Why did you take JJ? Why did you take him out of school? Why are you moving? What are you doing? All this is your fault. It was just ridiculous.
So she'd been gone for 58 days, leaving.
No contact whatsoever.
Literally 2 months gone, up and out of. Screw you, dude. I know we've been married for a decade, but screw you, brother. Just dips out. Doesn't say nothing. And you're mad at him? You're the one that's gonna give all this crap? I really, really feel bad for this man and his family.
And then she shows up at the house when you guys are moving out.
Coincidental, by the way, right?
What was Charles's demeanor reaction? You said he was crying?
He was at first, but then he was just crying. Charles was a very soft-spoken man, and he was just trying to get a word in edgewise. And finally, Lori settled down a little bit, and they went and they talked for a while in the living room, or I guess it's like a great room. Then they moved to the bedroom to talk, and I could still hear every now and then Lori would get a little loud, but they were talking. And then I remember that Lori came. I was sitting at the dining table. She stood next to me and she said, "I love you, KK." And I said, "Well, I love you too. I'm sorry this is happening." She cried. I didn't know what to do, really. So
It's like, I mean, how do you feel bad for the person causing all this, right? But then you're like, well, I guess I should show some sort of feigned emotion here. It's all bad. This only gets more convoluted and interesting as it goes.
I mean, I just was there, and then she walked off, and the next day she came. I don't know who came, but they got Tylee's belongings out of the casita where all of Tylee's belongings were. I don't remember if she got anything of hers. I really don't remember.
Are we now talking the end of March, beginning of April of 2019, when Charles is moving back to Houston?
Yes.
Did he bring JJ with him?
Yes. In order for me and Charles to move in, Larry, I flew out here and brought JJ back to Louisiana with me, and then my husband Larry kept him for a week while I flew back here to help Charles pack and then drive back to Houston.
All right, so you guys rented a big truck and drove it?
He drove the U-Haul. I drove his pickup.
All right. When you and Charles got to Houston, then did your husband bring JJ back?
Yes, he did.
Through all of this time with Charles, when he was looking for Lori while she was gone for those 58 days, did he still want Lori to be part of JJ's life?
He did. He did. He never was trying to take that away from Lori.
It seemed, from what I'm understanding, which was even mentioned just a couple of minutes back, is that Lori didn't want anything to do with JJ anymore and didn't want anything to do with, Charles either. So I'm kind of shocked at what angle Lori could possibly try to say, oh, he was running off with my kids, my family, etc. But, reality is, that's farthest thing from the truth here. Lori was definitely initiating and making most of this worse.
Even though Lori didn't want him anymore. I still didn't, I never really understood that, but I guess he was just hoping for the best.
It really does seem like Charles was a pretty level-headed and good dude for the most part. Like I said, I don't know the guy personally, so I can't give a personal endorsement, but from what I'm seeing, it just seems like he was a pretty good father, wanted the best for JJ. Obviously, JJ had known Lori as his mother for pretty much his entire life. They got him at 2 years old, so you can imagine that's his mom basically. It's definitely a sad situation all around. But I mean, it just seems like Charles was just doing right by JJ.
But yes, he absolutely wanted her to be part of his life, Lori's life.
So once Charles moved to Houston, did Lori ever also move out there?
I don't know if you call it moved out there, but she did. She came that day on March 28th. Charles said, look, we're moving to Houston. You're welcome to come. I'll fly you out Sunday. And she said, no, I'm busy. I have a project or something she was doing in Hawaii. She said, it'll be about 2 weeks and I'll be in Houston. So whatever she did, she was gone for 2 weeks, 2 more weeks. It was a total of 72 days, I believe, she was gone altogether. Was that she and Tylee moved in at Charles's, and Charles said that she slept in JJ's room with him.
See, that's kind of an odd thing to me too. It's why are you moving in the person that you're moving away from, right? I don't know. I guess toxic, codependencies, it's a lot more convoluted than, how we're making it seem here in this video for sure. It's definitely just sometimes you just wonder, it's why do people do the things they do? I know love is a crazy thing, and, especially when you've been with somebody for so long, have such a history with them. But
the first 2 weeks when Charles and JJ are in Houston without Lori, were you ever there to help with JJ or Charles' business?
No, Lori was there. JJ was
before she moved there. The 2 weeks.
I think I had to go home for a little while, but Charles came the weekend, and, so if I wasn't here, he was there.
So once you drove him there, you may have stayed to help him, and then you went home.
Yeah.
And you weren't there when Lori came to Houston.
No.
You told us that you had been helping your brother with his business, and I think you'd said something about changing passwords. Was that to different financial accounts?
Right. Credit card, banks, stuff like that. Yeah, the password to Google, the password to,
all the things you use for business.
Yeah, yes.
And so when you started helping him, you had changed a lot of those passwords.
Yes.
At some point, did you become aware at some point, did Charles stop asking you to help him with the business?
He did, and that's when Lori came back.
Now, you said that your brother worked in annuities, right?
Yes.
Right? That last part of the time when you were working with him up through sort of the end of March, beginning of April, were you aware of Charles coming into a large amount of money?
He was receiving an annuity, what do you call it? I can't think of the word right now, but he was receiving $125,000 check for his commission for annuities, and Lori obviously knew that because she was there just a few days before that came.
This is the first time I'm hearing of this particular angle of it. That's crazy. I didn't know he was making those types of commissions. So he must have got some really big client or clients, at that time, which makes this even more sad because it's solid dad, solid family man, great business, all thrown away for what?
Came into the bank, that was deposited into the bank. I had access to the bank, so I would watch that.
So even though Lori came back, you still had the passwords to look into Charles's account?
Yes.
Do you know how long Lori stayed in Texas with Charles?
It's like she wasn't there the entire time, but I mean, she was always traveling. May, I'll say towards the end of May. I'm not for sure exactly what day.
So at some point, a couple months later, you become aware that she has left Houston.
Yes.
Did you know where she went?
Yeah, she was back here.
So they moved to Texas. They're in Texas for maybe a grand total of 2 months. Lori went on like a 70 plus day tirade before then. She sticks around for maybe another 60 days, something like that, and then dips off back to Arizona. Things are progressing now towards, a meteoric downfall.
Did JJ come with her when she moved back here to Arizona?
He did.
Very, very questionable. Now this is starting to get more what I'm looking for. Petty, I guess. This is starting to get a lot less. This is starting to seem more like, hey, I'm gonna do stuff to bother you.
And did your brother move back here?
No, he did not.
With your access to the finances, were you aware whether or not Charles was paying for a house here in Arizona for Lori and JJ?
I really don't recall seeing that transaction. I really don't, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. At that time, I was selling my company, so I had a lot going on at that time. That's when it was really getting, the due diligence. The company was doing their due diligence, so I had to provide a lot of information for them. And so it really was perfect timing because then I got super busy with my company and I didn't have to deal with all of Charles's because Lori was back.
Yeah, this is crazy. So, like, just seems like, this all happened at the worst time because so much was going on for so many people. Just a quick little preface. I looked around there for a second because I heard a noise. I was like, it's following me. And then I look over. It's just my fat freaking cat snoring her ass off, living her best life. But yeah, it caught me off guard for a second. So I was like, wait, what? Yeah, I mean, I guess, it's also been 5-6 years at this point too. So, she's not going to remember the nitty gritty, like this type of stuff. But I mean, it would not be out of the realm of possibility, I'd say, to assume that, Charles is probably paying for that house. I mean, maybe not. I could probably be, making an ass out of myself assuming here. But, that's what it seems like.
Let me ask you something else. Were you aware of when Charles met Lori, or they got married? Do you know if she worked?
She was a hairdresser.
Sorry to keep pausing here. Just something that I was thinking too is like, what did Lori do before all this? Normally I do like a deep dive and like an actual like documentary about these cases before we do like reactions or anything. But this is the first time I've just kind of jumped into a case without really not knowing anything besides what you'd see on the news, and I'm kind of just reacting to it raw. I wanted to see how that would be and how this would feel as a series type thing, if I just kind of jumped into cases and kind of just went with it as as everybody else in the court is, and kind of at the end, are we going to have the same conclusion as the jury? Probably, but you never know. We might disagree sometime. But yeah, man, this is so incredibly interesting. Like these details, it's wild. It took us 35 minutes to get to these details. These are the details I've been waiting to hear in this case.
Did work as a hairdresser and I don't know exactly when she quit working, but I don't think she worked long, if she did, after they got married.
For most of the time when you knew them to be married, you did not see her working outside the home.
No.
Be nice.
Did Charles, I guess, work so she could stay home with kids?
Yes, he was fine with being a one income, letting her stay home, tend to the kids, and he would be the money maker.
I mean, if he's making 125K commission check, sheesh.
I know that we've talked about Charles working in the area of financial planning. Did you know if Charles had a life insurance policy?
Yes.
That's something that, how did you learn about that?
Well, I mean, he had told my husband Larry and I years ago, he helped us acquire a $1 million life insurance policy on, for me and my husband each, because he always had one and Lori had one. So that was nothing new or unusual to talk about.
Well, I guess so. I mean, I feel like she would have had to have been aware. I know they got to establish these things in court. That's why they're asking them. But I mean, obviously, if she's like, knuckle deep in all their finances, assumably she'd be aware of this. But I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure she's the one that helps him change his policy, if I'm not misunderstanding that. I guess we'll probably learn that here soon, so I should probably just shut up.
At some point when you were helping Charles, when Lori had disappeared and Charles didn't know where she was, did you have a conversation with Charles about the beneficiary of his life insurance?
Again, Swampy D, if you'd just shut up.
Yes,
Answers my
it was
question.
early February when came here to help him with JJ, and he said, "Look, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna take Lori off as beneficiary, and I'm gonna put you as a beneficiary." We talked about maybe a minute and a half about it. And I was like, okay, whatever. I really don't want to be that person, but okay. I never followed up to see if he changed. I didn't know until I got the phone call after he was killed.
So
Imagine that. You're already grieving because your brother, was heinously murdered and killed, and you had to experience everything that was around it just to be then called by an insurance company, be like, hey, you got $1 million. It's like, oh. Man, that's gotta be absolutely depressing. I guess I'm not super experienced at a lot of this stuff. I probably should know more about, life insurance than I do. And this is definitely an eye-opener. It's like, man, maybe I should be looking into that. I guess more for me, it's like, wouldn't you want to put maybe JJ or something? Well, I guess maybe that still kind of puts it under Lori's grasp, right? So I guess on behalf of JJ to his aunt here, because I feel like she's a pretty solid person, and I don't really see her running away with it, especially since she's, has a successful business of her own. But anyways, I'm going to stop talking. We'll get right back into this.
the discussion you had of that change was during that time period when he couldn't find Lori, had no idea where he was, and he was taking care of JJ?
Yes.
And you were helping him take care of JJ.
Yes.
So if something had happened to Charles during that time when Lori wasn't around, would you have taken care of JJ?
Yes, he would have come back to me and my husband. Probably must have been in June.
And do you recall where that was or the
I think he
circumstances?
came to Lake Charles for the weekend.
Did you see JJ then?
Yeah, no. The last time I saw JJ was May 18th.
When was the last time you recall speaking or texting with your brother Charles?
He texted me the night before he was shot, and hey, I'm going to be in Phoenix tomorrow, and how's it going? And just a little short text, and I'm boarding the plane now, and I'll be back in Phoenix in a little bit. And then he told me a few other things he had planned, but that was not much, not a big deal.
Do you
Nothing
think
major.
he was going to Phoenix to just see JJ?
Yes.
Did you know anything about any type of intervention?
No, he never talked. If he did talk to me about it, and I'm pretty sure I would have remembered that. But no, I know that he and Adam was his confidant during that time, Lori's brother, and I know that whatever he was doing, Adam was part of it, and they were just. I knew he was in good hands with Adam, because Adam, they love Charles, him and his wife.
Have any knowledge of Charles wanting to get a place here in Phoenix so he could be closer to JJ?
I don't remember that, but I can't remember that. I mean, I don't think I don't know.
No,
I can't
okay,
answer that.
that's okay. I want to talk to you then about, so you talked to your brother, just kind of normal stuff as he was, before he got here to Phoenix. How did you learn that your brother Charles was dead?
It was on July the 12th. I was at a nail salon in Lake Charles, my granddaughter and I, and he called from his oldest son, Cole, and he said, "Hey, what is going on? I just got a text from Lori, and she said Dad's dead." And I said, I was.
That is one of the most shocking things about this that has just had me taken aback. That's actually how I found this, was like Lori texts, Charles' son, and literally just says, "Dad's dead." and moves on. Like it's so callous. It's just so disgusting.
Wait, what did you just say? And he told me again, and I said, something's wrong with that. That can't be true. I said, have you tried to call her? And Cole's like, yeah, she won't. I'm trying calling. She's not answering. He was freaking out, and I was like, okay, Cole, just give me a minute. Let me think about this. Let me see, and I'll call you back. I promise. As soon as I can figure this out, I called my husband to tell him. He said, okay, well, I told him that what the Cole said, and he said, hey, let me call you back in a minute. And so I was still at the nail salon trying to get out of there, and he called and he said, he's dead. I Googled him and he's dead. Alex killed him yesterday. I mean, that was just like.
I mean, again, just imagine having to learn about the death of your brother, who you're incredibly close with, through like a Google search in like a text message, like asking like, hey, what the hell's wrong with my mom? Like, why are they saying this? Like, absolutely deplorable.
It was horrible. I have to call my siblings and let them know. Thank you.
Put her under the jail. Put her under the jail. That's where people like Lori deserve to be.
And everybody was freaked out. I didn't know what to do. But I did call Cole back and let him know that it was true. Just was telling him, let's keep in touch. You find out something, I find out something. We'll let each other know. And
Did you try to reach out to Lori?
I've tried calling, texting Charles. I tried calling, texting Lori. And at some point, she texted me. She returned a text, something like, I'm having to deal with a lot of stuff and I'm busy. And she was too busy to even call his family to say that he was dead by her brother killing him. And
which, come to find out, the brother apparently killed himself a few months later too, or something along those lines. Absolutely crazy. I mean, this is exactly what I'm saying though. It's like, Lori's dead to rights. It doesn't matter how much of a circus we make this. I mean, she's already going to be in jail for the rest of her life. This is more of just like, we're going to hold her accountable for every single thing she's done. And I really hope that she gets the maximum penalty, if not death, for this. Because, the more of the details you hear from Kay here, it just gets more and more tragic and sad, and it just paints this picture of Charles again, the father that you probably would want growing up as a kid, especially as an autistic kid, and a guy who just seemed like he was doing everything possible to take care of his family and to keep his family together. And we have horrible, hideous, evil people like Lori around the world who are running around just acting like they can do whatever. Let's finish this up, though.
So you had tried to reach her and she was too busy to talk to you.
yeah.
Did you ever, what was the burial plans? Did you ever get Charles back? What happened with him?
We ended up calling a detective, the detectives in Chandler, since that's where it happened. And we were able to speak to a detective, I don't know who, but we told them that I had already arranged just a flight for the next day. We were here by noon Saturday because I needed to know where JJ was. I didn't know what he had seen. I didn't know what he knew. I knew he would be, I knew it wasn't good. But I couldn't, we had to talk to the detectives before I did anything with Lori. And we had to wait till Sunday to meet with Nate Moffitt. When we talked to him is when I told him about the life insurance policy, and that Lori, that I didn't know if Charles had ever changed it to me like he said he was going to do. And so I didn't know, but I just knew we had to get JJ because he was not safe with her.
I'm going to go back to
Nobody's
Charles.
safe with Lori. Not with Loris of the Trees.
Where was Charles buried, or where was what was done with his remains?
Well, this was before Lori knew she wasn't getting the money. She had him cremated, and he was mailed. He was FedEx or whatever over to my office, along with his Letterman's jacket from high school and a couple pair of cheap sunglasses and one or two 2 watches. It was just a few little trinkets. Charles had a watch collection, and she just sent some crap.
Like, again, it just, like, every turn, Lori looks worse and worse and worse. It's just like, really, you're gonna send some literal junk from Homeboy's trunk, some trinkets sitting around in his, the top of his little dresser or whatever. And you're like, oh, there you go. You're just gonna ship him off. I don't know, man. It just feels so wrong at every level.
Cremated him and FedExed him to you.
Yes.
Sent him to your work office?
Yes.
Not even her home. The work office. Like, let that sink in. It's like, this is your brother, this is your husband, etc., etc. And you send him off to the work office of his sister with a couple little trinkets that you probably just swiped off of his dresser. Like, it's insane. It's insane to think that, like, for the most part, this was all just about getting a few buckaroonies and getting to hang out with a new boyfriend or something. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely disgusting and deplorable.
Now you're saying this is before she learned the life insurance policy was not going to be, she was not going to be the beneficiary. Did you set up like a service for
She got that
Charles?
smart.
Yes,
Gotcha, bitch.
my family and I made arrangements for a memorial service to happen in Lake Charles on August the 3rd, which was, he was killed July 11th. So took us a little bit to put it together, but we did.
Did you talk to Lori about having JJ come out for Charles's service?
I think the last time I talked to Lori was she told us that she wanted, I asked her, what can we do in Houston? I was trying to be nice because I knew she had something to do with his murder. And I'm not one that can just lie off the cuff. I'm a bad liar. And so when I did talk to her, and it was a long, awkward conversation I had with her, but I was like, what do you want us to do with the stuff at the house in Houston? But when we got to the house in Houston, and she did, y'all please go do what you want to do with it, see what Cole wants, y'all split it up, y'all take it.
She gave you permission to go to the
Yes.
house in Houston and take whatever was there?
Yes, and when we got there, none of Charles's personal belongings were there. Nothing at all. And that I couldn't figure out why nothing of Charles's or JJ's was there. Or wait, nothing of Charles's was there. Just his business files and the big furniture.
That's even more strange. Just, Lori, you're dead to rights here. You're dead to rights here. As we end up this video, I need to give a big shout out to Fox 10 Phoenix. That's where this video has come from. There's a couple more minutes. This ends with a couple more questions, but we've been here long enough, and if you want to watch the end of it, you can go check that out. I will have a link in the description for you to check it out. Much love to them and also East Idaho News. I have gotten a ton of stuff from them. Again, you can find them in the description, and you can find them in the description of all of the Lori Daybell videos. You'll always be able to find the original sources down there. Thank you guys so much. Be sure to hit that like button. It helps this new type of content get pushed into the algorithm. If you're enjoying this content, definitely throw me down a comment, as it helps me out a ton, and I'll see you all soon.